Vivovac just released 8Invent, and this isn't just another AI tool. This is a new category, an engine that invents before the world realizes what's possible. 8Invent is quietly doing for invention what Google just did for financial research. But there's a twist. Instead of analyzing markets, 8Invent is predicting breakthrough science and turning it into patents before the big labs publish. Let that sink in. While the world was celebrating Google's Willow Quantum computer in Nature, 8Invent had already filed patent applications built on the same class of physics. Not after, before. This is the part nobody's talking about yet. To be clear, this isn't hype. We're looking at a system that did two things we almost never see together. It crossed domains from biotech to quantum, and 8Invent discoveries arrived early, before peer-reviewed validation. 8Invent helped assemble a vascular biotech patent family, now conservatively valued in the tens of millions of dollars. Then, 8Invent generated quantum control architectures that ended up bracketing Willow's non-equilibrium and openness toward organizational change scale, also known as OTOC-based quantum echoes results. Same classes of ideas, but 8Invent was already at the application layer: motors, hydrogen systems, real engineering use cases. This isn't about beating Google at physics. It's about beating the timeline of traditional R&D. Today we're digging into 8Invent, what it is, how it beat Willow to the quantum frontier, and what that means for anyone serious about innovation, IP, or building durable advantage in the AI age. First, what exactly is 8Invent? At its core, 8Invent is a universal innovation system created by Vivovac. Think of it as a meta layer that sits on top of science and technology. It ingests vast swaths of research, patents, and real-world data. Then it orchestrates multiple AI models, divergent thinkers, careful validators, pattern matchers, under a single controller. The output isn't just ideas. It's patent-ready inventions with evidence binders, timelines, and claim skeletons that patent counsel can take straight into prosecution. In other words, 8Invent doesn't just summarize the frontier, it moves the frontier and plants a flag. Now let's talk about the Willow moment, because this is where things get real. In March and April of 2025, 8Invent was used internally to explore non-equilibrium quantum dynamics, time reversal control, and decoherence as a mechanism, not a problem. Those concepts were embodied in application-level inventions: a water-metal hydrogen system and a rare earth-free, quantum-assisted motor architecture. Provisional patents were prepared between February to April of 2025, filed in April and October, and recorded in the Australian Official Journal of Patents and on the USPTO. These patent applications are listed and accessible via international patent searches. Months later, in September and October, Google's Willow team published two landmark papers in Nature on Floquet topological order and OTOC-based quantum echoes. Same family of mechanisms, different layer of the stack. 8Invent had already written the "How do we use this" chapter. This is what it means to beat Willow. Not that 8Invent built a better quantum computer, not that it replaced experimental physics. What it did was arrive first at the application layer, with patentable, defensible architectures in the same conceptual territory Willow later validated experimentally. One engine running ahead of peer review, using the world's best labs as downstream validators instead of competitors. Imagine that pattern repeating across dozens of domains: biotech, materials, energy, compute, even financial infrastructure. That's the true significance of this story. And this wasn't a one-off. Before the Willow case, an earlier first-generation version of 8Invent was already battle-tested in biotech. An Australian regenerative medicine company used 8Invent V1 to help design a two-phase FGF vascular prevention and repair platform. That work became an international PCT filing. Patent counsel liked what they saw: strong novelty, coherent mechanism, commercially meaningful scope. Investors liked what they saw even more. Internal and external assessments put a conservative standalone value on that single patent family in the $25+ million range, before full clinical development. That's one patent family, from the first generation of the engine. The Willow work was done with the upgraded system. So what does 8Invent actually do differently from every other AI for R&D promise? I see 3 layers. First, predict. It uses multi-model AI to spot emerging patterns, like non-equilibrium control regimes or staged growth factor signaling, before they're obvious. Second, package. It turns those patterns into concrete inventions, claims, embodiments, flow sheets, control architectures, diagrams, and evidence citations. Third, prove. It anchors inventing to public records, journals, preprints, AOJP, short for Australian Official Journal of Patents, entries, so that when the Willow-style papers land, they don't threaten the IP, they validate it. That's the loop. Predict, package, prove. Let's zoom down from the philosophy to the workflow. Imagine you're a mid-sized energy company. Traditionally, you stand up a task force, hire consultants, run workshops, and maybe in 18 months you have 2 or 3 patentable ideas and a PowerPoint. With 8Invent, you bring a domain question. Design patent-ready concepts for hydrogen production and motor systems that eliminate rare earths and reduce emissions. For the next 8 to 12 weeks, 8Invent runs discovery spirals. It suggests mechanisms, inverts constraints, runs thousands of internal simulations in silico, and continuously prunes weak concepts. At the end of a 90-day sprint, you're not holding a slide deck. You're holding 25 to 50 provisional filings, each with an evidence binder your counsel can take into the patent office. Now compare that to the old world. Traditional R&D looks like this. Academic theory, then 2 to 3 years to experimental validation, then 2 to 3 years to first filings, then 3 to 5 more years to a real product, 7 to 11 years end-to-end. 8Invent compresses the front half of that cycle into months. It doesn't replace labs, it changes their role. Labs become validators and refiners of a pipeline of candidate inventions already structured and staked out. The Willow story is just the first very public example of that inversion. The lab publishes a Nature paper. Somewhere in the background, 8Invent's clients quietly own key applications that sit on top of the physics. Here's the pattern this fits into, and it's exactly what we've been calling out for 2025, the year of autonomous agents and task execution. With Google Finance, AI started doing research and synthesis for investors. With 8Invent, AI is doing research and synthesis for inventors and IP owners. Phase 1. AI handles the frontier scanning, hypothesis generation, and prior art awareness. You still make the strategic calls, but you're no longer guessing in the dark. Phase 2. Agents begin drafting full specifications, diagrams, and claim structures under counsel supervision. Phase 3. Internal and external agents orchestrate the entire loop, discovery, drafting, filing, portfolio pruning, across multiple domains. 8Invent is essentially Phase 2 and Phase 3 for invention, today. The part that should either excite you or scare you is what this does to the innovation gap between the haves and the have-nots. Historically, only big pharma, big energy, or big tech could afford the kind of systematic IP machine that churned out hundreds of filings a year. Small teams and solo inventors were left to fight over scraps. 8Invent flips that. A lean biotech, an energy startup, or even a national lab can spin up an 8Invent sprint and, in 90 days, have an IP portfolio that looks like something a Fortune 500 might have built over 3 or 4 years. The gap between big lab and everyone else, it's collapsing in real time if you plug into engines like this. Let's be clear, we are not just automating tasks anymore. We're automating expertise. That's the key difference. With Willow, Google showed that you can use OTOC-style analysis and time reversal sequences to extract deep structure from noisy quantum dynamics. With 8Invent, Vivovac is using AI to extract deep structure from the entire corpus of human technical knowledge and turn it into ownable claims. The AI we have in 2025 is the worst it will ever be. The 8Invent engine we're talking about, the one that beat Willow's peer-reviewed timeline and helped create a $25 million class vascular patent, is just version 2. Version 3, 4, 5. That's where it gets genuinely historic. So what does this mean for you right now? If you're a founder or CEO, it means you need to start thinking of predictive IP as a strategy, not an accident. If you're in R&D, it means your job shifts from come up with ideas to define domains, constraints, and guardrails, then curate the best outputs. If you're in legal, it means you'll spend less time redrafting incoherent invention disclosures and more time architecting portfolios and negotiating deals. And if you ignore this, you're effectively choosing to compete against organizations that have a head start not just in technology, but in time. They've locked in priority dates before the science hits headlines. The truth is, most companies are still running their innovation programs like it's 2013, not 2025. Innovation workshops, sticky notes on the wall, a couple of patents a year, maybe an innovation award at an industry conference. Meanwhile, systems like 8Invent are quietly turning R&D budgets into option portfolios on the future. Some of those options will expire worthless. A few will define entire categories. The ones who adopt early will own a disproportionate slice of whatever comes next, whether that's quantum class motors, vascular therapies, climate tech, or something we haven't named yet. Here's what I'd do if I were in your shoes. First, stop thinking of AI only as an assistant inside tools like docs or email. Start thinking of AI as an engine of invention, something that can sit at the center of your IP strategy. Second, get curious about 8Invent style systems. Ask hard questions. How is evidence handled? What does counsel say? What real filings can they show? In the Willow case and the Australian biotechnology case, those answers already exist. Third, start a pilot, not a PowerPoint pilot. A let's file 10 to 25 provisionals in 90 days pilot. Once you've watched that loop end to end, it's very hard to go back to the old way of doing things. If you want to stay ahead of this shift, hit subscribe so we can keep bringing you these deep dives before they show up in mainstream coverage. Drop a comment. Does the idea of systems that patents things before the world realizes they're possible excite you, or does it frighten you? What would you want an 8Invent style engine to work on first? Health, energy, finance, something else? The future is going to belong to those who are brave enough to be first adopters, to treat AI not as a toy, but as a core intelligence layer in their business. And if you're serious about being one of those first adopters, go beyond this video. Learn how to work with engines like 8Invent, how to frame good domains, how to evaluate AI-generated inventions, and how to build a company around this new reality. Inside our AI R&D labs at VivoVac, we dive into the exact frameworks being used right now to turn AI from a curiosity into a competitive moat, including case studies like the Willow precedents and the vascular platform, the biotech firm, as well as the patent family for the hydrogen startup. The AI revolution is already reshaping who invents, who owns, and who leads. The question isn't if it happens, it's whether you'll be in the group that patents the future or the one that just reads about it later.